Plastic pollution is everywhere.
The beaches of the world are now becoming plastic.
We need to stop the flow of single-use plastics.
The kids nowadays are going to be swimming into trash.
We're on the edge of a global catastrophe.
This is a persistent problem.
It's meant to be thrown away.
Toxins up the food chain.
We're poisoning ourselves out of convenience.
We created all of this stuff and we didn't have a plan.
Manufacturers get away with murder, literally.
Single-use plastics are designed to be used one time and then thrown away. A water bottle, plastic bags from the grocery store, plastic silverware, straws.
Single-use plastics, by their nature, plastics in general, they don't biodegrade, and everybody thinks they're recycled. Well, less than 5% of all these single-use plastics are ever recycled. It's estimated that 10% of all these single-use plastics wind up in the oceans.
We keep creating these things, and we can do it so quickly and instantly that the rate of production of plastic is much higher than the rate of recovery.
Here is a cap to a cooler. Would anybody ever think that this would be plastic pollution one day? That's when you start to look at all of the things in your life and realize that everything is plastic. Since the ocean's downhill from everywhere, it most likely is going to end up in the ocean. The current kind of wraps around the pier and then everything hits this wall and then just gets washed up here. So this is all from land. It's just pieces that have broken down, and it's very similar to the way the gyre looks, a lot of it.
The Great Pacific Garbage Patch was a name that was given to the North Central Pacific Gyre. The gyre, G-Y-R-E, is an accumulation zone.
So a bottle cap might leave California. A bottle cap might leave Tokyo. They're going to both spin. They're going to spin, ride those fast currents. When they get in the middle, they're stuck.
We couldn't come on deck for a whole week without seeing something floating by. That set off alarm bells, and we came back a couple years later with equipment to test how much was out there. It was unbelievable how much plastic we found out there. It was just amazing to think that the ocean had become this plastic soup.
It's not like there's one great big pile or one great big mountain or one great big island of trash out in the middle of the Pacific. It is scattered, it is dilute, it's broken up, and some of these things have been there for years.
Plastic has the ability to become any shape, any color, any texture, and so it mimics every kind of food in the ocean. Food is scarce in the ocean, and when animals come across a bottle, like a soap bottle here, they start munching on the edge of it.
Doesn't that look like a jellyfish? This is dangerous to be in the environment. I mean, you throw this in front of a bird, it totally is going to think that it's edible.
These things were found inside the stomachs of Laysan albatross, just pouring out of their chests. We use all these products, bottle caps, asthma inhalers, all these things were somehow being transported by the gyres across the oceans 4,000 miles away to Midway Atoll, where marine life were consuming it, and then I watched them regurgitate this plastic into the stomachs of their chicks.
We have a really serious situation with plastic acting like food, having the texture of food, but then not behaving like food once it's ingested. In many cases, that's a death sentence for whatever ate it.
Look at all these nurdles. See all these? I could pick up 1 billion. They're all over.
They are the virgin form of plastic. They're sent to a facility and they are put into a molding machine and turned into a plastic product.
If these get lost and they wind up washing into the ocean and spend any time there, they begin looking like this. Now they're discolored because they have absorbed materials that are present in our oceans on a regular basis.
Everything from industrial chemicals, PCBs, pesticides are all glomming onto plastic.
We are creating a poison pill. And the problem with that is that it has the potential, because these are small, to be eaten by smaller animals or fish.
They're finding in the North Pacific that 1 in 10 small fish have plastic inside of them. Well, a small fish is eaten by a big fish, and then the biggest fish of us all, humans, are eating these fish.
And now we're putting a concentrated form of toxins into our food chain.
It's a serious threat to our health, to the health of the ocean, and increasingly to the health of the animals living on land. People need to be educated about it. We're synthesizing so many new compounds that have so many different uses and have so little regulation or study of them before they're released into our environment that the chemists themselves are saying, stop.
Water bottles are polyethylene terephthalate, which is thought to be a relatively benign plastic, except that the manufacturers infuse it with bisphenol A to make it flexible. Bisphenol A is a highly controversial chemical, and there's a really gigantic data set that says it's harmful in a variety of ways.
We're taking all these toxins and turning it into a container for our most precious things like water and for food. And every time we're using these single-use plastic water bottles, these chemicals are seeping into our waters and into our foods and are poisoning us. We're poisoning ourselves out of convenience. And that's counterintuitive. That doesn't make sense. It's stupid.
A couple of primary issues are out there right now and are being studied more and more. One is the issue of endocrine disruption. Hormone mimics.
BPA is an estrogen. You increase estrogen exposure in humans, you will increase the risk of breast cancer in women. You will increase the risk of prostate cancer in men. That's very well established.
Our sons, our daughters, our grandparents, our girlfriends, our husbands, our wives are being poisoned every time they drink out of a single-use plastic bottle.
For a child that has not yet reached puberty, if they're ingesting even extremely small, we're talking parts per trillion or less, according to some researchers, of these hormone mimics, it can alter their body. You're now changing the nature of the DNA and the genetics of the species.
We need to turn around, and that's the hardest thing for people to do.
We realize that what each of us do in our own lives is what makes the change. So we have to start changing our mind and changing how we use things.
Remove plastic from your life as much as you're able.
We're not far enough along with solutions to eliminate it. So the best we can do right now especially is figure out ways to contain it and to stop it from getting out there.
If we know they're going to last for decades, then don't use them. Find a smart alternative.
And eventually manufacturers will realize it's to their benefit to use these safer alternatives than the chemicals which they've been using that have a variety of costs and consequences associated with them.
There's no guiltless parties. Everyone is contributing.
People aren't demanding the change. The most powerful vote we have every day is the dollars that we spend and what we spend them on and where we spend them.
Refuse to buy something that you know is not appropriate.
We need to start thinking about the total cost of what we do and designing solutions that consider that.
We want to design things for after their purpose is completed, how can they be reintegrated into our world in the proper way that reduces the amount of raw materials we use, that reduces the amount of energy we use, and maintains the health and integrity of all of the species that live and depend on our oceans and our earth.
The largest river or the largest ocean started with one drop of water. And it takes that one drop, it takes that one person to take an issue and say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to stand for this anymore.
Things don't have to be this way. When enough people lead the way, the political leaders will have to follow.
I think we can change it, but we have a small amount of time, a finite amount of time, 15, 20 years, maybe a generation, to change things before things start going bad.